Hi guys, welcome back to S. Chamberlain 5150's YouTube channel. We're down at Rock Cycle Service, back working on the old track DYNA for the average life of Bob. We're just working on, he had these caliper mounts. He switched out to this Marchesini, he's gonna yell at me for saying it wrong, Marchesini wheel off of Ducati. He already had custom spacers done. I think it's a 25 mil axle already, but then his old rotors were 330 mil rotors. For these caliper brackets, and the new rotors are 320 millimeter rotors. So we had to mill 5 mil off of this caliper bracket to make sure we had proper pad engagement on the rotors, which that's looking beautiful. We'll get the bolt sizes all set up. And then as you can see with these track dynas, he has everything drilled so you can wire everything shut. You know, he's got his oil cap drilled, so then you can wire that shut when you got to check it and everything. Everything's got to be wired shut. Drain plugs, oil filters, all that stuff. Just the cool stuff when you want to bring a bike to a track day and do all the fun stuff. A little extra. So he's got the steering stabilizer, which this was pretty cool. I was checking it out. Like if you want to twist it and harden it, you know, lighter, heavier, you can just grab the end. It's like a clicker. You know, so if you want more dampening, less dampening. Then he's got this for the DYNA, which is a stabilizer mount. You gotta get that all set up, make sure it's all correct with the new motor going in and mounts and stuff. Just make sure everything's set up nice and sweet. And then there's another stabilizer mount back here. We're gonna go through that, make sure that's all set up right. Charlie, you got the old Dark Horse bottom end in here. Brand new.
They're Carrillo rods, and it's a Timken setup. This is like a 13 DYNA, I think, so it did not have a Timken bottom end in it. Dark Horse set the whole bottom end up, and you're in the $2,500 range just for the casework and the labor for them putting it together, and the new crank. It's a brand new unit. Super high quality stuff, all fancy wheels. Pin is welded. This whole setup is balanced. They ask for piston part numbers and everything when you do the paperwork for all this, so that they can balance this rotating assembly for what pistons are on it and everything. It's a real high quality deal.
Awesome. And then we got some parts laid out up over here of what's going into it. Brand new S&S oil pump, taken apart, disassembly, check everything on it.
I always clean everything in assembly lube. I use this Bel-Ray, this assembly lube here. It looks like anti-seize. It really stays on there and really lubricates everything up really nice. They're Dave Mackey 598 gear drive cams. The heads were done by John Walker Performance. It's a 2-inch intake valve, and I believe it's a 187 exhaust. Then it's going to be 113 cubic inch. So we had to buy Cbo Cylinders, and you actually have to cut the cylinders for clearance for the rods. These are some Keith Black coated domed pistons. This motor should end up around 11 to 1, 10, 9 to 1, 11 to 1, that ballpark. Here's a little comparison on a stock cam to a 598 Dave Mackey cam.
Jeez. Just look at the ramp profile, how much different those are.
Yeah, it's
wild.
Bob's gonna have to relearn how to ride this bike when we're done with it.
Yep. Then a whole S&S cam plate with the block off. Since this is the gear drive cams, you put this block off up in here, and then it doesn't have the tensioner anymore. Good old tried and true S&S push rods, Cometic gaskets, everything. HPI throttle body, cable driven, and then the HPI V2 air cleaner with this custom Team Psycho stealth cover. So it has no bolt, it just spins on and then you're good to go. So hopefully it doesn't have an issue with that and having to wire tie it.
I see it's got a set screw on the back of it that you can.
Yeah, it tightens all up.
I can find my oil. Okay, so the cam plate's in and torqued and the pump is in and torqued, and we did that in a video before, so if you guys are curious about that, check out the build on Mason's bike. When you're doing a brand new crank in a bike, you need to make sure that you get some oil into the crank. So I have this little pumper can here, and if you go right into the end here, you can look down where the rod bearings connect to the pin there. And after a while, you should see some oil. You want to make sure that you do that every time you put a brand new crank in a bike, because if you don't, then you'll start it up dry.
Don't ever do it dry. So we're running these 320 mil rotors that came on these 17-inch Marchesini wheels, which he switched to a 17-inch wheel because the better tire options you have for track tires. And his old rotors were a 330 mil rotor. So we have these Speed Merchant axial to radial mount adapters, and then we had to mill them down 5 mil. So we got these all set up, you know, that, and it should, or I already test fit it. It brings the caliper pad surface into like perfect bite with the rotors. So as far as this front wheel conversion, you know, some new spacers he has, a little bit of spacing of the caliper left and right, and then getting these set up with as far as how these calipers work on it. And it's not that big of an issue, so should be all set. We're gonna Loctite everything in and get it, and then safety wire it. So we got these all mounted up. These are gonna get wire tied together and everything, and then I don't quite know what the spec is for, you know, tying these. So I just wrote on there, tight, not torque. If you ever have something, you know, like throw a piece of blue tape on it, little reminders, you know, that. So I don't know if he's got to like drill the heads out in these and then wire them all together, but we got those set. Pad depth should be good, you know, to ride on where it needs to go with these modified brackets. Sweet.
Okay, so these are Cbo cylinders. These are 110 cylinders that have been bored over to 4060. That'll make this motor a 113 because it's stock stroke for what a 13 dyna was at 4 3/8. So you'll notice, if you've ever seen stock cylinders, that this sleeve is much longer and it's cut out for the rod and it's cut out for the piston oiler. So as this sits on here, the cases had to be bored out, and it takes away your groove for your base gasket O-ring, and you now have to run an actual base gasket, a Cometic MLS base gasket. And you'll notice there's also a nice dome on those pistons. And a dome piston along with the heads being decked, which you can see over here. What John did was took some surface away from here. You're actually making your chamber smaller, which will raise your compression. So, and there's, you can see it's been ported all through the exhaust side.
See the intake?
And through the intake side.
Oh yeah.
All the springs are pressure tested, and if they don't pass, they get replaced. It's a pretty well done up set of heads. I've used John for, I don't know, 15 sets of heads now, and I've never had one issue, never had to send one head back, nothing. It's always been spot on perfect, and it's always made great power.
The dome though. All right, guys, successful night in the shop. We got the old, the front brakes all taken care of per the customer specs that he wanted. Jugs are on, cylinders are on, torque spec, or torques, and all good. Get the cam system all in there, all torqued up. We also, earlier, I don't know if you ever seen on one of my older bagger videos, but with the chain drive, we had to mill this out. He had previous chain contact, so we just chucked that in the mill, made up a little bit more clearance for the chain drive, which this with as much rear shock and everything he's running, he's got a little pillow block right there to keep the chain up off the rear mount. But we just wanted to alleviate that problem when everything's off. So always check that chain clearance with how much lift you're putting in the rear of these Harleys now. You know, it might run in a little contact. The chain will clearance itself, but that's not the right way to do it. So, all right, you guys have a good night. You know, just give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe, tell your friends. We're going to try to keep doing cool stuff. So thanks.